But this bike reminds me of everything I got into bikes for. Very kind of it. What's happening, my epic people? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing amazing as possible. Today you join me down at my absolute favourite spot where I like to just come and chill, relax, do my thing, you know, maybe practice slow speed manoeuvres, things like that. But for the eagle-eyed, you will happen to notice in any videos usually where I come down here, it's usually because I've got something new to show off a little bit, maybe do a little review on it, something like that. But also some news for the channel. I did manage to sell my BMW 1200GS. It just wasn't getting used the way that it is intended. I wasn't planning on doing any much touring and things like that. I may just do, but at the moment I fancied something a little bit smaller, a little bit more me. Don't get me wrong, I did enjoy the GS, and it is a phenomenal machine, especially having now worked with them quite a bit. And so the gentleman in question I happened to sell my bike to, his name's Nick, just so happens to be a fellow YouTuber. I didn't know that at the time of selling, just merely coincidence. Himself and his partner Jody showed up, and we got chatting away about the bike and everything like that. And yeah, they've got an epic channel, so give Nick and Jody's episodes a follow on YouTube. They are awesome, lovely people, and I'm sure they're going to get many good miles out of the GS. So Nick and Jody, thank you so much for an easy sale, and certainly hope to catch up with you real soon. Now on to my new steed. Without further ado, I've gone for something a little bit more close to home, a little bit of something that actually started the channel, but a little bit older than that. This is a 2009 Street Triple. It's not the R, it's just the base model, and certainly something good to build on. You know, it's not crazy high, it's not something I plan on doing in any dirt riding or anything like that. It's just a nice, solid, all-out road bike. And the best thing about it is, where it's obviously got the age it has, there's no extra gadgets, bells, whistles, not too many electronics to go wrong. So nothing too overly complicated. You know, just engine, chassis, wheels, brakes, very much straight to the point. 105 horsepower, certainly ample, 50 newton meters of torque, and it's got everything I really need for it just at the moment. But very much a classic look to it. Look at those headlights, they are awesome. And for the eagle-eyed people who have been following my channel, you've obviously seen the original Street Triple I had, which was a 2015. What I've always wanted for years was the round headlights, not the bug-eyed ones that come with before, and the twin exit exhaust, which they just look fantastic. Green wasn't actually my first colour of choice, but the more I saw it, the more I actually fell in love with it, and it really is incredible. But everything about this bike just screams classic, out and out motorcycle. This is just what you get into riding for. So without further ado, let's go for a ride and we shall see exactly what it's like, and we can talk a little bit more. Sync 'em up. So here we are, folks, back on a Street Triple again, and like I said, this time being the older model of 2009, I couldn't resist it. I thought, if I'm going for a cheaper motorcycle, if I'm going for something smaller than the GS, why not make it something that I really have always wanted. So yeah, something without all the bells and whistles and gadgets and gizmos. if you so happen to be a more modern rider where you've had nothing but the luxuries of ABS, traction control, steering dampers and everything that's sort of keeping track of you, then you might not necessarily know what riding a bike is like without those rider aids and all the bells and whistles that you're so used to. But this bike reminds me of everything I got into bikes for. Don't get me wrong, I am certainly not going to be putting down anybody who's gotten into riding recently, and you know, the bikes that you dream of having or do currently own are those with all those extra things. It doesn't make you any less of a rider because you either have them, lean on them, whatever. But for those who did get into riding in a time where there wasn't anything to hold back the raw power of your bike or the inputs that you put into braking, where you had to just think that little bit more without relying on anti-slip, etc, etc. Well, this bike takes you right back. So like I said in my little walk around, is 105 horsepower and around about the 50 Newton meters of torque. I mean, I'm sure over the years it may have diminished slightly, but it still feels like an incredible bike on what, 17,000 miles and many years from 2009. It doesn't feel like it's done it any mischief at all. I mean, what an incredible machine. As you can hear by the tones, and you can see by the feel of it how quickly it quicks up, there is nothing holding it back like a modern bike with all the Euro 5 emissions. That's not to say that modern bikes are not incredible, because they are. You know, pretty much any one of these modern bikes you see, you know, any one of us mere mortals could never outride them anyway. But this bike just doesn't feel like it takes away any of the fun factor by outdoing you. It's got very usable power. It's pretty much what you want for the road. Don't get me wrong, I've ridden all the bigger bikes, and you know, whether it be the adventure bikes, sport upright bikes, you name it, I've given them a try. But this just feels, I'm not going to say perfect, but it is absolutely phenomenal for the road, especially for, say, a newer rider who's just acquired his full license. I mean, that's not to say that there's not bits where you sort of go, well, I do miss having that from, say, an adventure bike, being that of plenty of shield to keep away from the wind. But on a nice day like this, when you want the wind to hit you, you want it to cool you down, it is incredible for that. Okay, you haven't got the brute force of a sport bike where, you know, all the power's at the top end if you want to be screaming the nuts out of it, which I do not condone for the road whatsoever. But if you just so happen to be inclined, this is not that sort of bike. All the fun is down low. I say down low, but down low in the mid-range too. It doesn't get bent out of shape, it doesn't give you any dramas. It's not too much of a bike for anybody to just pick up and think, you know what, I fancy going for a ride, I don't fancy having to wrestle this machine. Because you really don't have to. What more could I possibly need? Especially for the summer coming up, where I just want to grab my bike, go for a nice cheeky blast, have a chat with you guys, show you some things that are a little bit more relatable because of the sort of bike you're going to be riding when you do pass, potentially. Something like this is just ideal. That induction noise, oh my god, I've really missed that. That's a shame, I really like this bend. I certainly just can't believe how right Triumph got this. I mean, for their first launch of Street Triple, I mean, granted it did come from the Daytona, but usually when brands bring out the first edition of something, they're never usually that great. What more could you hope for on a nice day like this around these back roads? Other than, you know, trucks with trailers and tractors and all sorts. It's very kind of him. Okay, I don't have that bragging rights of power in the pub with my mates. Not I go down the pub anyway with my mates, but still. I'm not sitting here going, oh well, you know, I've got such and such horsepower, what has yours got? But anybody who knows about the Street Triple, which I'm sure everybody does by now, knows just how amazing they are. And I knew as soon as I rode it, I felt right back at home, right back onto the Street Triple that started this channel. Alright, granted that one had ABS, but as far as I knew, I never really lent on that ABS too much at all. I think a lot of the time it's a thing in the mind which makes you feel like you need those extra gadgets and gizmos on your bike, where realistically, if your inputs are correct, most of the time, just fine. See, at first I did wonder if I will regret getting rid of the GS and going back to a smaller capacity bike, a little bit smaller in size, less wind deflection, less gadgets and gizmos, you know, lack of sat nav here. But I don't, because the reason why I don't, because I know it's gone to a great home. I know it's gone to somebody who's really going to appreciate it and use it for what it was designed for. Now, it's not to say that I wouldn't have found time to in the future, but as it stands at the moment, It is just not what I'm after. I mean, the main difference is why I chose this street triple over a newer one. It was not over affordability. There were three main reasons. One was the headlights. I just love the look of them. Two was the exhausts. And three was also, this particular model had a shorter gearing ratio compared to the newer models. So if this is something you've been considering for yourself, whether or not you should get a newer street triple, an older one, let's just be honest, it doesn't matter. They're all incredible. If you want a bit more classic old school character and feel, go for an older one. If you want a bit more of a modern one with a bit more gadgets, gizmos, a few safety features, that sort of thing, go for a new one. But also don't forget that the newer models after the 2015 were then up to 2765, not 675 like this is, and like my old one. So before I shut this video down, I just want to give a big thank you to Superbike Warehouse in Great Yarmouth for getting me set up with this. It was a very quick and very easy purchase. They were absolutely fantastic. From the minute I walked in there, I think within about an hour I was finished with all the paperwork, and a few days later ready to collect, and they were fantastic. Cannot praise them enough, that's for sure. So if you are looking for your next bike, your next piece of kit, whatever it may be, they can certainly help you out there. They got oodles and oodles of bikes, oodles and oodles of kit, a little bit of something to suit everyone. Check them out, guys. Anyway, that's enough rambling from me talking about this new to me old street triple. I shall catch you all in the next one. Peace out, my epic folks.